So I'll start off by saying this is not a video about how to become like Sam Altman, Andrew Huberman or Alex Hormozi. Of course that's impossible. Yes, let's be clear, their success comes from a lot of hard work, talent, and perhaps a little or a lot of luck as well. But you spend enough time online and you'll see many other examples of success stories like this. So is there more to it than just luck? Are these people putting themselves in positions to increase their chances of luck? Well, this tweet from James Clear and Naval Ravikant I think provides an insight into what this missing luck factor might be. The tweet talks about asymmetric opportunities. Asymmetric opportunities refers to acts where the payoff is significantly higher than the cost of doing the act. Now, of course, the list of examples provided here in this tweet are perhaps too specific and outdated, but I think generally speaking, they can be categorized into 4 buckets: build, invest, create, and connect. So if we start off with build, I'm specifically referring to here building a business. Typically when you're thinking about building a business, you think there's a very high risk associated with it and there's a lot of cost involved as well. But you don't need to build a complicated software or product. I think it's never been easier than today to start a business. And instead of selling products and software, you can sell specific skills and services. For example, that could include web development, design, video editing, consulting, coaching, copywriting, ghostwriting, the list goes on. Even when it comes to building products with things like low code and no code, you don't necessarily need to be a software engineer to build simple apps and simple websites. You can even build digital products. For example, Islo, who's quite well known on Twitter, made over 500,000 in under 2 years from selling just very plain Notion templates. Whatever your interest or talent or skills, whatever it is, chances are there are tools on the internet where you can build a product or service around it. Now, if you do want to go down the complicated tech startup route, then I'd suggest checking out Y Combinator Startup School. It goes into everything from how to think of startup ideas to building an MVP, a minimal viable product, to also just launching and growing your company as well. You could also just join as an early employee in an early stage startup. The benefit there is you still get salary and you'll likely get some percentage of equity where if the startup does do really well, then of course you'll be financially free. I think the takeaway here is to take on greater ownership and accountability and use the internet to your advantage. This is probably easier whilst you're younger because you have more shots at the goal. And so whilst many startups fail, you only need one to win big. Now let's move on to investing. I should of course flag that nothing I say here should be taken as investment advice. I am not an investment professional. I have no background in investing professionally, and so this is just obviously my opinion. So this is probably not applicable to many people because I do think when it comes to investing in alternative assets, you do need a lot of spare capital as there's significant risk that comes with this type of investing. However, I do think it's worth noting that investing in startups can of course lead to significant returns. And whilst we're not there yet, I do think this space is becoming increasingly accessible to retail investors. I think when it comes to investing in startups or just alternative assets, you think of people that are very wealthy and very sophisticated. But with things like angel investing and rolling funds, I do think this space is becoming more democratized. The most popular example of this is AngelList, but there are other options out there. Beyond startups, there are of course other assets such as crypto, as the initial tweet refers to, and real estate. I think the reason why I bring up investing in alternative assets is that I think if you are in a lucky position where you do have a lot of spare capital or just enough spare capital, then instead of, I think, just putting your money into traditional funds, stocks and shares, I guess more safe investments, perhaps throw maybe 10 or whatever, 20%, whatever percentage you're comfortable with into more risky assets, because the payoff is significantly higher, and if it doesn't go, then it's money that you can still do without. So moving on to the third bucket, here I'm talking about create, and specifically creating content as opposed to creating company, which we covered off in the build section. Now in today's world, there are plenty of options to create content, whether that's written, whether that's audio, or whether that's video. When it comes to writing, you can tweet, you can post on LinkedIn, you can write newsletters, blog posts, even write a book if you want to. When it comes to video, you have TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. When it comes to audio, of course, you have Spotify, Apple. I think the beautiful thing about content is that you can take one idea, one piece of content, and duplicate that millions of times without any additional cost. And whilst it may seem like there's tons and tons and tons of content out there, you have to remember, in the grand scheme of things, it's not been that long since a lot of these platforms have come about and since people have been posting online. Many of these platforms are still relatively new, and so I don't think it's too late to start creating content. I think it's also worth remembering that never before in history have we ever had a chance like this, where with one post we can reach millions of people across the world. Use that to your advantage. Beyond the potential financial rewards, there's also other upsides, such as building connections, potential job opportunities, even just increasing your own skills as well. The final bucket is connect. Now this is a very quick one, I think, because it's kind of common sense. I think the main aim here is to put yourself in positions where you can meet as many successful people in your field or wherever your interests are. Obviously moving to a big city, so where I'm in London, you can increase the odds of meeting many like-minded or successful people that want to do bigger and better things. Of course, with that comes more networking events, more socials, all that kind of stuff. I think the other point here is finding a partner. It's probably the most important decision you'll make in your life. And so by going on more dates, meeting more people, connecting with more people, you'll increase your chances of finding that person for you. Again here, the internet has made it such that you don't necessarily need to be in a big city to make the most of these sorts of opportunities. There are plenty of online communities, you've got social media, but I think for me, nothing beats in-person connections. And so as much as you can be in around these high energy, highly successful cities, I think the better off you are. So to summarize the key points of this video, I think the key thing here is to pursue bets where the payoff is high, but the cost is low. Not all of these are equal. As we have seen, some of these, such as starting a business or investing in alternative assets, can require significant money and time investment. But you also don't need to take big bets as well. I think you can also take much smaller bets for each of these different buckets. For example, you don't want to start a complex business that will take years of sacrifice and potential significant investment in your own capital. Well, then sell a skill or service that you have on the internet. If you don't have any skills, and I'm sure you do, but if you don't have any skills, then just learn something for free on the internet. There are plenty of options out there. When it comes to content, if you don't have the time or willingness to start a YouTube channel or write a book, then make it easy for yourself. Write on Twitter or X as it is now. Post on LinkedIn. Make short videos on TikTok or Instagram. When it comes to investing, if you don't have enough spare capital or you don't want to take on that risk of investing in individual risky assets, then perhaps put your money into funds that do invest in these risky assets. I think the more of these bets you take, even if they're small bets, the more likely you'll end up somewhere exciting. Like with many things in life though, it's all about consistency and patience. And so I think asymmetric bets are not so much in the individual things, but rather a way of life, a habit and a mindset which will increase your surface area of luck. And with that, increasing your chance to become like them.